Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Special Edition show. This is Tracie Mahan, and I am your host. At the moment, I am working at getting our guest on the air with me, so hang tight. I'm going to give you a few instructions on getting to the chat room so that if you would like to join in on the chat, we can do that. What you want to do, there is a chat room for Blog Talk, and that one I will try and check as often as I can. But the other chat room, the one I would like you to go to, is over in Facebook, and it's called Heart and Soul Radio Chat. So if you could go over to Heart and Soul Radio Chat, that would be great. If you're not a member of the chat room, just ask to join, and we'll get you in there as soon as possible to join in with the chat with us. There is a banner with James, the guest. On the front of the banner, it says chat here, and that's where we're going to be chatting. So hopefully that will be easy enough for you to find and get you started in communicating with us. So, okay, so I'm trying to read text messages as well as talk to you guys and keep from having a silent radio show. So let's just keep that going. Okay, let me see. I think we have him. And James, are you here?
I am. I'm on my phone, unfortunately. I don't know why there's no sound. I can't hook in through the computer.
Okay. That link that was sent to you didn't work to get you through on the computer, huh?
No. It says I'm in. It says click allow to access your microphone, and that's as far as I got.
Huh. Yeah. Well, we're live, so I wish I knew more how to help you with that, but if you don't mind, we'll just continue on the phone. Will that work for you, or?
Sure, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Wish that wouldn't have happened. We were trying to avoid that like crazy this morning. Ashley was working with me on that, and we thought we had it figured out. So we'll just go with what we're getting here. And to officially introduce you, James, I have a large audience that I don't believe they know. A lot of them know who you are. So I would like to just tell them real quick here. I'm going to read off some things about you. James is a best-selling author, internationally known lecturer, minister, counselor, multiple near-death experiencer, and contactee, which I think that'll probably come up in topic today. He is a facilitator of many Eastern disciplines, a visionary dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth, who teaches higher dimensional realities from his experiences. He is recognized worldwide as the founder of the Gilliland Estate, commonly known as the ECETI Ranch, standing for Enlightened Contact with Extraterrestrial Intelligence, This is where he documents and shares amazing and multi-dimensional contact phenomena, which can be viewed at the ECETI official Stargate Radio YouTube channel. I have all of these things posted on my chat room. Again, that's going to be Facebook at Heart and Soul Radio Chat. Under the chat banner, I have all kinds of links for you guys to explore. I have the ECETI Ranch. I have the events page. I have the YouTube page. I have the store where you can find James's books. If there's something you're looking for, James has probably got a website for it, and we'll get you connected to it. So, James, thank you for coming on the show tonight. And, we have all kinds of amazing things that we can talk about. I did get the pleasure of coming out to your ranch this summer, and I had a great time doing the Skywatch. So what I might have you do is just kind of introduce what you've had UFO sightings and contact. Let's go ahead and start there, because it's kind of hard to figure out where to start with you. There's so many different ways to go. So let's have you start with that.
Yeah, well, I have many hats that I wear. So, our main thing is we're dedicated to the awakening and healing of humanity and the earth, and by whatever means necessary, basically. And so we have major conferences here and workshops and things of that nature, and we sponsor the top healers on the planet, people that have both scientific methods of healing, alternative methods of healing. We cover authors. A lot of famous authors have been through here. We just had Jim Mars, and here just recently, unfortunately, he's crossed over. But we always have top-notch people here, and everybody that comes to the ranch are usually heart-centered. They're very heart-centered, and they're dedicated to service, to humanity versus service to self. So if you're in service to self, don't come. You won't have a good time.
No. Well, my experience when I went there, it kind of feels like coming home. It's like everyone there is family and friendly and approachable, and it was just a very loving experience going there. And one of the experiences I had was after we were doing Skywatch, and then, I was one of the ones camping. So it was hit the little restroom before you hike out to the campsite. And on our way to the restroom, I was with a friend of mine, we saw the cutest little owl. And I was telling one of the gals that works there about this. I said, hey, we saw your little owl. And she was like, we have an owl? Anyways, so I thought that was pretty exciting that we did get to see the owl, and it flew up in the tree, and we sat there and looked at it for a while, and then we went on, and nobody else saw it. So so I felt special. I got to see the owl. So.
Yeah. It was probably one of those little pygmy owls. Or was it really small?
It was small. Yeah.
Yeah, we have these little pygmy owls around here that are really cute. I mean, they're really small, but they got really big feet and some pretty sharp little talons on those feet.
I didn't get close enough for that, thank goodness. But
yeah. You want to stay away from the feet.
Exactly. Now, you've lived at the ranch for, I believe I heard 31 years. Am I close?
Yeah.
Am I close on that? Yeah. And
yeah.
And you've had, well, let's talk about, because I think what started you on all of this was the near-death experiences, as far as getting contact with extraterrestrials, or so.
Yeah.
How many near-deaths did you have?
Well, I had one at 5 years old. I had bronchopneumonia, and I was dying in the hospital, and I was in between worlds, and they kept telling my parents that they didn't think I was going to make it through the night on several occasions, and so I just kept pulling through. But what happened was a woman that was all dressed in blue kept appearing to me, and she would stroke my head and talk to me, and I always felt better after she did that. And then, that happened several times. I had, conversations with her, and I used to always ask, where's the woman in blue? Where's the woman in blue? And all the nurses wore green uniforms, so there wasn't any woman in blue. And they were telling me I was hallucinating or whatever, but, I was definitely between worlds and having, contact. And I didn't realize who it was. And before I say this, I want to kind of qualify that it's actually Mother Mary, and she's not a Catholic. She's not owned by the Catholic Church. She's actually a universal being.
Yeah.
And she's here to help all
I'm a recovering
children.
Catholic. Yeah.
Yeah. And she's here to help all children. And she appeared to me, and that was the beginning of it. And at the last time she appeared to me, she actually gave me this substance. It was a white substance, and it was kind of the consistency of ice cream, but it wasn't cold. And she asked me to eat that, and then after I ate that, I was never sick. I never missed a day of school or anything all through my childhood.
Wow. And we're all asking, where do you get the not cold ice cream?
Yeah, I think I know what it is, actually. I think it has to do with oxygen, with crystallized oxygen. And so I know scientists that are working on that right now.
That's exciting. That's good news.
Yeah,
so,
you can actually get it in a water. There's a water called Langenberg water, and they actually crystallize the oxygen, and they suspend it in a microhydrate, and I think it's pretty close to the same substance.
Wow, that would be some great news. Especially, I'll tell my kids about that. They'll be very excited. They won't miss another day of school.
Oh, yeah.
So did the contact with extraterrestrials start happening after the 5-year-old experience, or was that something that came a little later?
Well, I had a lot of strange experiences. I know my dad came into my room once, and I was putting these big screws to the door. I borrowed his drill and some big screws, and I was trying to screw the door shut to the outside, and when we lived up in the high desert. We lived up in Napa Valley, California when I was a kid. And a lot of stuff was going on up there. It's where all the, Integratron and Giant Rock and all that stuff was going on up in that area. But they even were building a flying saucer. Ralph Ring and Otis Carr and those guys were actually building a flying saucer in this area, right? They flew it over our house. We actually saw it, so that was interesting. But a lot of activity there, and I didn't understand what was going on. I didn't understand the experience, and so I was trying to screw my door shut. And my dad goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, just said keeping them out. And he said, "Okay," and he never said anything after that. So it was kind of interesting. But my dad had contact, and he had he was a dentist, and you didn't talk about that. You kind of kept that part quiet. But his family came out of Carlsbad, New Mexico, and they were involved in the Roswell stuff and the first responders and everything else. And so my grandmother was the matriarch there, in the area, the school teacher, and they came to her. The sheriffs came to her and said, they go, "Elizabeth, we're not alone." She says, "Of course we're not." That's what she said. It's a big universe out there, and they told her the story. But there seems to be a long history. A ship actually landed on the main highway there and blocked traffic for quite some time. And my dad was the second car, on the scene, and they're all standing outside their cars looking at this object, and then they had a memory loss, and the next thing you know, they're all sitting in their cars, and the ship is gone. So that was another interesting thing that happened. So there seems to be a long history of this, but what's different with my experiences is that I came to find out later that it was more like I was a willing participant in this. I made agreements, to have these contacts, and they were very benevolent. They weren't the Greys or the reptilians. They were the Nordics. They're very, very loving, very advanced beings, and they were just making sure I got through. This experience here, on Earth, and adjusted, to the energies here.
So I'm going to, again, real quick, maybe have you touch on, so there's several types of extraterrestrials that are in contact with us right now as far as Earth, and not all of them are good, correct?
Exactly. And I think it's extremely dangerous and incompetent to say there are no negative ETs. I think people who make statements like that are actually working with the negative ETs, and either knowingly or unknowingly, they don't know any better. And there's such a long history. It goes back to the Nag Hammadi. It's written on the temple walls in Egypt. There's thousands of years of history of ancient knowledge about interaction with ETs, and some of it good and some of it not good. So I don't know why people would make statements like that.
Well, I would think it would be just like humankind. We've got some that are not so good and some that are good. So, why not? Why not with the ETs? And like each race could have that particular scenario going on where there's some good ones and some not so good ones, correct?
Yeah. And there's, what I've seen is, a safe bet is usually to try to connect. You can feel the intent, and you can feel the consciousness and energy around the contact. If it doesn't feel loving and supportive and it doesn't feel good, it's time to do a clearing and clear that energy out. And that's what we teach here. We teach how to heal unseen negative influences and how to work with the benevolent ones so you can stop this from happening.
Well, and I'm going to jump in on that. Usually I kind of save this stuff towards the end, but you have a self-mastery class in October. Is that something that you teach people in the self-mastery class, how to be tuned into that stuff?
Exactly. Yeah, we cover everything from, who's who in the universe to the low-level contacts to the high-level contacts. And, it covers a lot of different types of beings. And it shows, there's a lot of people that have those night terrors, and they have those dark hooded beings showing up over them, and they see the shadow beings and things like that. And those are real. I mean, they are real beings, but there are ways of healing and moving them on and, creating protection and things like that. And it's pretty simple. Yeah, you just learn who they are, who's who, and you learn who to work with, and you learn who to call in, when these other beings show up. And the more benevolent beings will actually remove them or just, they'll either be healed or they'll be removed, one or the others.
Well, and I had to work with night terrors. My oldest son used to have those when he was younger, and I can't tell you that has got to be one of the creepiest feelings when your child wakes up and stares right through you, as if you're not even there, and you can't do anything about it. And so it's not just scary for them. As a parent, it was scary, and I did a lot of digging to see what's going on, what's happening here. So
yeah, you actually can do something about it. We just haven't been trained, and I've actually put the technique for healing these entities in my first two books, and went into depth on it in the second book. So I made sure that I think it's in my third book. Actually, I think it's in all the books actually.
Just when you get so many books that you don't know.
Yeah.
So I did put a link to those books on the chat page again, just to share that with you guys. Do you have just the 3 books out right now? And then you have a video as well to share.
I have Reunion with Source, and then I have Becoming God, and I have The Ultimate Soul Journey, and then the Anunnaki Return is the latest one. And that really goes into depth on what's happening right now. There's about the Earth liberation process and how this Archon grid or Draconian grid has oppressed us for so long, and it's finally being removed, and who they are and who the benevolent ones are that are coming in to remove these entities.
And that's I'm going to again segue, because on my list of questions I wanted to ask, one of the things I heard you comment on is how these benevolent beings that were contacting you were giving you the real history of the Earth. And, it's one of those frustrations as a parent who has children in our school systems to see what they're being taught. And it's like, cringe, okay, just do it. You got to get through school, so you got to do it. But it's knowing that our history isn't near what we're taught it is. Is there anything you would want to share on that?
Yeah, it's been a lie, unfortunately. History is his story, as told by the victor usually. And unfortunately, it doesn't give the real history of what really happened. And it doesn't go back far enough. I mean, I think it was, is it Michael Cremo? Yeah, Michael Cremo's work. If you look at his work, they show modern man going back, 650 or 600 million years. And it even goes back further than that. So, it's not, man didn't, we didn't go through the dinosaurs and then man appeared after the dinosaurs. There were men walking right alongside the dinosaurs, and that was, going on for quite some time. But when I went to Australia, it was amazing. I got to hang out with some of the elders, the Aboriginal elders, and learned a lot, and they showed me things that they wouldn't show ordinary people, because while I was there, I was having visions, and I was telling them about the visions and the beings I was seeing, and they go, oh my God, they got like one group, I saw them, their knees didn't go forward like ours, they actually curved back, and they had very large legs, and they're about 9 feet tall, and they're carrying feathers on their back, and those are the Janabi. They're not and people spend their whole life trying to connect with these beings, and I was in the outback there and seeing them, and it was kind of funny. So they showed me a lot of things they wouldn't ordinarily show other people. And, I went out to Gosford Glyphs, and I saw the real history all carved in stone in star glyphs, hieroglyphs, and petroglyphs about the real history of Earth. And, it shows that some beings came here, some extremely advanced beings came here, and then they tinkered, they added their DNA to the Denisovian man that was there at the time. And then it has the rest of the story, and then it has, there's a couple of, and these were the ancient Illyrians that some people call the Anunnaki. They're very tall beings. And then the second phase was the Pleiadians that came in to terraform the Earth and recolonize it again. And those started the Atlantis and Lemuria colonies. But, all the history of Earth is actually written on these stones, and they've tried to destroy these stones many times and were stopped, thank God. So,
yeah.
The real history there in Antarctica is actually going to bring out, a whole new history book there when they find the artifacts there and find out how old they are. So we've had a long history of colonization by, at least 12 star nations that have been here on the Earth, and there's been a lot of genetic tinkering, and they've actually brought a lot of their plant and animal life here as well and helped terraform the Earth.
Yeah. So for the audience, I can't tell you enough. You need to watch this YouTube video with James in Australia. I did post it in the chat room. It's one of my favorites. You have people raising their vibration to pixelate their bodies. I mean, there's just so many amazing things going on in this. It is 3 hours and 45 minutes, and it's all well worth the watch. So I posted it there, but if you're not part of my chat room, you can just Google James Gilliland in Australia, and it'll come up. So we have that. Okay, there's just so much. You get talking, and then I want to know more and more and more. So now you were mentioning Antarctica, and they're currently finding things in Antarctica right now, correct?
Oh yeah, they're finding a lot there, and they there was a whole civilization that was flash frozen. When they went through a pole shift, and a lot of their technology is still there. And they're very advanced groups that were there.
Yeah. I'm just looking at my time, trying to figure out how much do I want to squeeze in on that. But that's another thing for people to look at is what's going on in Antarctica, because there's some big stuff going on, and hopefully, we'll be included in the knowledge of what's happening up there, through disclosure and different things. But they're finding some amazing things there from what I've heard on just listening in on these shows. So I know I have a lot of people that are waiting to hear about geoengineering and the hurricanes, and we've got another hurricane heading in called Maria. What do you know about geoengineering?
Well, they are engineered. The hurricanes are engineered, and I think something intervened on the last one, and it came in and just took the wind out of it. But not to make a joke, but it actually did. And it was a 5 coming in. Next thing you know, it's just dropped down to a 2. So, we have one group that's trying to create, category 5s, and they're creating the fires and spraying accelerants all across the forest, and they're killing the trees, with the aluminum, and which blocks the uptake of nutrients and things like that. And, these storms are geoengineering these storms, to wreak as much havoc as possible with the chemtrails and the HAARP. And then you have other groups here that are intervening and shutting down some of these efforts. And we're right in the middle of that. And I think eventually it's all going to be shut down pretty soon here, because it's all tied into the deep state. And when the deep state goes, the rest of these projects go.
Yeah. And I've heard you refer to it before, but when you were asked, who's behind all of this, I heard you respond, follow the money. And I just wanted to put that out there for people that, maybe are hearing some of this stuff for the first time, or, just it's finally kind of like, something's not right there, and they want to know more. It's true. Follow the money, and you'll start figuring out who's behind these things. So
Exactly.
there's just a lot of things going on that, when it gets disclosed, I'm sure people will be very unhappy. It's going to be part of it. Now, how would you recommend for people that are finding these things out for the first time, the things that have been going on for years? Let's go into reverse engineering, spacecrafts, technology that we've had for years. I'm sure there's some people that are finding out about this, just like this is a brand new piece of information. So how would you go about helping them process that?
Well, I think the first thing they need to do is stop watching the fake news, basically throw their TV set out the window. I did that in the 70s. And start doing research. And you'll find out, basically, if you really want to know what's going on the planet, just watch CNN and reverse everything. Just everything they say, just reverse it, and you'll have a good idea of what's really happening, on the mainstream media. The other stuff going on, too, is people are finding out that almost all the conspiracy theories are turning out to be, conspiracy facts. And that's all coming out right now. That's a lot of these people are being vindicated. I've known about these things ever since I was a kid, and I was waiting for people to catch up, to see what's really going on. But I never even questioned if UFOs were real. I never even had that question in my mind. I always knew they were real, and I had an awareness or memory, and I did remember some of my past lives when I was a kid, but then I had an initiation by a very large Orion Council light ship that came in, and they hit me with 3 gold balls of light in the chest and restored all my memories. And so now I have full memory of off-world existences, and I understand their cultures and how they function and some of their history, too, because I lived it. I was part of it.
Yeah. You took a picture of yourself with the red chest, right?
Yeah.
When that happened to you?
Burn mark in the middle of the chest. And what's weird is it morphed from a kind of a circle burn to a triangle, and then it turned into like a heart shape, almost looked exactly like a heart. And then a gold film appeared over it, and it just went away. It was gone.
Wow. So in your experiences, then, have you been, I don't like using the word abducted, but have you been taken up on spacecrafts, or just having visits, or communicating telepathically? How would you describe that interaction?
It's like all the above. I've been on the physical ships. I've been on the 6-dimensional ships, and I've gone on the big motherships and seen all the different species on those ships as well. But some of it was physical, and some of it was not physical. Some of it was out of body. And I know this is kind of out there, but basically we're not just a body and a personality. We're a multidimensional being. And we have many bodies going all the way back to the source. And when you understand that, you realize there's 6-dimensional beings coming here, and we also have a 5th-dimensional body that we're not aware of. And they have the ability to pull you out of your body and have a conversation with you and put you back. And whether or not you remember it depends on your spiritual awareness. Some people won't remember it, and some people will think it was just a really vivid dream. And the more you're aware, the more you realize that, these things are just as real as something physical.
Yeah. One of the things that you were talking about is the ships, and I've heard you refer to them before as, people want to see nuts and bolts, and they're not nuts and bolts. Can you explain what that means?
Well, they have ships that are physical, and some are less dense physical. When they power up, they become an energy or light. And they have ships that are energy ships and ships that are light ships. And some ships are basically Merkabahs. They're like spiritual vehicles. And so it's, in the ancient Vedic texts, they talk all about this, the different types of ships. And they even talk about their weaponry and everything. It's all well documented. But a lot of the higher dimensional beings that are coming here, they're not going to come in a physical ship. Some can actually drop their ships down into this frequency, but most of the time they're more in like an energy or a light ship.
So for people that would want to have some contact with the benevolent extraterrestrials, it is about raising your vibration, right? About getting our own vibration up so that there's an open communication. And then that usually happens more telepathically than any. Is that the most common?
Definitely, yeah. It's the more we raise our frequencies, the easier it is to have contact. And and they will drop down and initiate us and get us going. But the more, we have a saying here, contact comes with enlightenment. So the more you do your meditation work and your healing work and your process-oriented therapies, and you let go of the old wounds and traumas and wrong conclusions from past experience and raise your frequencies, the easier it is to have contact and work with these beings.
Yeah, okay. I do have a question from the chat room here. Stacy is asking, do ETs interact with us unbeknownst to the regular person? And if so, how would I know if there might be an ET affecting something in my life?
Boy, that's interesting. That's a multifaceted answer on that one. They can. A lot of people are working with Pleiadians and think they're working with angels. They don't know. They can't discern the difference, and it doesn't matter because it's a good message and it's usually a healing message. That happens quite a bit. A lot of times people influence in a negative way by low-level ETs, and they actually feed off of that energy, which ties into the night terrors and the fear, and a lot of the violence, on the planet right now is sponsored by another group, and so, as I said, it's a multidimensional experience, and there are some groups that actually feed off the violence, and it's kind of sad because you've got these guys out there that are sponsoring, Soros and company, and they're sponsoring, Black Lives Matters and Antifa and all these groups, and these guys are they're admitted Nazis basically, and we all know where that went in the past, and they've been totally taken over, by either certain beings or reptilian beings. They're not even human anymore. There's not any human left in them, or they wouldn't be doing what they're doing. But they're just here to create division and separation, and create the violence and the other stuff. That's their whole game.
Is there a way for people to protect themselves against some mind control of that nature, where they're being influenced to be in fear or negativity or harmful ways?
Yeah, definitely. There's universal law, and the higher dimensional beings and the ones that are in service, to Creator, or which means all creation, basically. They're going to operate under universal law, and there's rules of engagement and things like that, and you'll feel their frequency. Whatever they do, it's going to be supporting you to make your own personal connection, with the God within you, you might say, or Creator, Spirit, whatever you want to call it. They're not here to be worshipped. They're not here to create a following. They're here to empower us. And if you have, and unfortunately, there's a lot of groups out there that are creating followings, and they are creating, very disempowering programs, and people are giving all their power away and their money and their resources to these groups to do what they can do themselves, very easily, but they're not told this. And it's kind of sad, but we're seeing it over and over again. There's a thing called planned opposition, and the people that are, waving their fists the most and calling other people cults and everything else end up, becoming exactly what they're accusing others of. So they're put in place, and they're to control the narrative.
Yeah, seen a lot of that in the last year. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, so
yeah, we get a lot of attacks from them. They constantly attack us, and one group, they have a story that's been completely debunked, and they charge 20% of people's income to join the group, and then they call everybody else a cult, and it's so, and they're the one stop, they profess to be the only true prophet. They have the only true prophet of God and the only contactee on the planet, and I'll just say it, it's like the Michael Horn, Billy Meyer story, but it's sad because these guys are going around attacking all the other UFO researchers and crop circle researchers and things of that nature, and very, very vehemently. It's just
wow.
Total slander, and it's just insane. And these guys, claim to be representatives of this higher force, this higher power, but their behavior is exactly the opposite.
So now that we're kind of talking about cults, and let's just talk about new religion. You were referring to some new religion that's coming out, and let's hear about that. What's going on with the new religion?
Well, it's the same old story, just a new cover. It's a new cover, but unfortunately, the new religion is going to have UFOs in it. It's going to, promote them as our saviors, and it's going to have, all these deities and programs, and a lot of it's going to move into the transhuman program. Where, buy this app, buy this gear, you can find out exactly what's going on with, the Galactic Federation of Light or whatever, and things like that. And even the church, I guess the Catholic Church is starting to get involved in sponsoring some of this stuff. So, and we all kind of know where they went. That's pretty evident. But, it's unfortunate. It's all external. When enlightenment comes from within, and when you make contact with Source or Creator Spirit, it's done within. And when you contact these other higher dimensional beings, it's done within. It's not an external thing. So a lot of these groups out there are actually creating a major disservice because, they're putting out disinformation and misinformation. They're becoming a big distraction for what people really need to be doing, and that's cleaning up their consciousness and, cleaning up the environment. And that's their main message.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw in there really quick because something that you said made me think of this, the chips that, they want to put in people's hands, the little microchips.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Stay away from it, all of that. It's kind of, with me, I have a cell phone. I'm on them right now because I kind of have to function down here. I keep it away from me, and I keep it turned off when I'm not using it. And, but, the same thing, too, is you have to, with the computer, you have to reach people with, the communications that they're using now, and so, we still have to use that right now to wake people up. But, you really think about it, a cell phone is just the failure of us developing our telepathic abilities, and, which we used to have. And so the more we become dependent on these other mechanisms, the more, we kind of lose these other abilities that are natural.
Yeah. So it is possible for us to develop more of the telepathy in our lifetimes with the 3D version of us that we are today. We can raise that up and start using telepathy. Oh, this is cool.
Well, it's happening anyway because what's going on is a lot of the geoengineering is to cut us off from sunlight, and almost everybody is vitamin D deficient already. And then you cut us off from the sunlight, it makes it worse. And the sunlight and the place in space we're going through is a highly energized place in space, and everything is reacting to it. The sun is reacting to it. You've got global warming. All these things going on are all because of cycles. It's not carbon. It's not CO2. It's actually other bigger cycles that are actually creating this event. And any scientist worth his salt will tell you that, and they had global warming back in dinosaur days, and nobody had SUVs during that time. And Barney and Fred maybe, but those are foot powered. But it's just kind of ridiculous if you really look at the real evidence. But we are going through climate change, definitely, and a lot of it's being geoengineered, and they're really screwing up the planet with that. And it's a cycle that we probably breeze right through it. No problem. It worked for all the, the geoengineers and all the other crazy things. And I think geoengineering is really playing right into Agenda 21 and population control. And, getting like all these fires we had here, you could just see them dumping one chemtrail after another. The whole sky was just covered with chemtrails right over the fires. Well, those heavy metals, especially aluminum, that's an accelerant, and it's going to make these fires 10 times worse. And the firefighters are saying that they've never seen a fire spread so fast and burn so hot. And, it kept getting away from them. And, we don't know how to fight this thing. It's like a monster. And they're created, these, just like the hurricanes, are they're amped up and created. You can see they're steered and they're stalled. Like the one in Texas.
Yeah, I had
right
some questions about that.
Stalled right on top of Texas and just sat there, So, but I think people are figuring it out, and they're starting to go after the dragon's head now, and you're going to see a lot of this happen in the news where, especially with the deep state going down, a lot of those people are just puppets, for the cabal, you might say, and the cabal are just puppets for the reptilians and serpent beings and things, and the archons. So it's what's happening on the higher levels. The archons, the high puppet masters, are being taken out, and they're being dealt with, and the lower puppet masters are floundering because they have no protection and they don't have that connection. They've lost their power, and so you're going to see a huge just a collapse of the powers that were, a collapse. And it's actually a good thing when it happens, because that's when the abundance will come out and universal law takes place. And, and that's individual freedom and prosperity for everybody. It's not just the 1%.
Yeah. We're looking forward to everyone enjoying that. Yeah. Okay. So
it's inevitable. It can't be stopped. It's a cycle, and the powers that are coming in and the energies that are coming in and the beings that are stepping up to the plate now are so immense. You can't stop this. It's going to happen. You can try to slow it down in your life, or you can postpone it a little bit, but you're not going to stop it, because it's a massive event, and the energy behind it is just too great.
So as any of the listeners out here, if they want to help with disclosure, what's a good way for people to go about doing disclosure?
Funny, I just looked over the clock and it's saying 11:11 right now, so it's kind of interesting. It's not 11:11 here, but
I was going to say we're in the same time frame, so that's really kind of cool.
It's kind of, but basically what we need to do is we need to apply universal law in our own lives. And, basically it's universal peace and brother, sisterly love and individual freedom and prosperity for everybody. And, we have a Native American saying, there's a Cherokee saying that says, if it isn't good for everyone, it isn't good. And we need to start applying that in our daily lives and start being kind to each other and stop trading things that would create harm to others. And, stop feeding, the machine, stop feeding the beast. The beast is going to collapse in on itself. The Native American prophecies talk about this. They talk about a beast that's 2,000 miles wide, and that's how long it's going to reign. And just when you think there's no more hope and everything's lost, including the environment and everything else, the beast actually consumes itself. And then the star nations return, and then the earth is healed, and people are, have 1,000 years of peace. And so and I see that happening right now. The beast will consume itself, and the people are going to rise up and the whole solar system is going through a frequency change, and those that are not frequency specific to the Earth won't be allowed to continue. It's really that simple. It's consciousness and energy in, garbage out.
So, how do people get themselves? Actually, I just want to send them all to your class in October. Go look it up. So
Yeah.
you guys can learn how to move out the old, bring in the new energy, and because it really is about shifting with the Earth as it's going through its shifts, correct? And just being,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and being the best person you can be. Be kind, be loving, be compassionate. Okay. So
yeah, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. All you got to do is be kind to each other, and it's really that simple. There's so few. One of the lamas I studied with, he said there's so few enlightened people on the planet. It's so damn simple. He said just go out in nature and focus on love and joy and bliss until you become it, and it pretty much is that simple, but we make everything so complicated. We and there's so many distractions to keep us from doing that we just fall kind of victim to the craziness and all the psychic turbulence.
Yeah. Okay, I got Karen in the chat room, and she's saying, are there any indications of the timing of these things? So I'm assuming these things are like the hurricanes, the fires, the earthquakes, and all that's been happening. Hopefully, Karen, I asked that correctly for you.
Yeah, well, the timing, everything's going to get a little crazy between now and the end of November, even just December, because it's all coming to a close, and things are going to happen very quickly. And so you're going to see changes, in the next, where are we at right now? Well, the next 3 or 4 months, you're going to see so many changes that we're not even going to believe the world we're in after 3 or 4 months from now. So,
you just made me feel better. Quickly. You made me feel better when you said, where are we at now? I was like, yeah, I do that. What day is this? Is that normal?
Yeah, I'm in this timeless zone up here at the ranch. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, you just wake up and say, point me in the direction I'm supposed to go.
Exactly.
I like it. Well, I would like to, we've got just about 13 minutes left here on the show, and I want to end it on some fun stuff. You've got Mount Adams right there in your backyard, and you've got this door that opens, and you've got this cave we want to talk about. And I want you to just kind of talk to us about that, the caverns, the inner earth, and I'm just going to set you loose on that.
Okay. Well, there's actually 3 doors on the mountain. One door's a little ambiguous. We're not sure. It opened up when Jimmy Church was here on the 4th of July weekend. And there's this cave that just out of nowhere opened up on the top left corner of Mount Adams. And unfortunately, since then, it looks like it's been destroyed because now the whole top of the mountain has come down on it and it's rubble. And we saw a ship parked in front of it that looked like it had a blinking light on it. Most of the ships don't have blinking lights on. The higher dimensional beams are just one solid light. But I don't know who this other group was. But the next day, the whole tunnel was collapsed, which was interesting. But there is a huge light door that opens up with the G-force right in the middle of Mount Adams, and objects come out of that, and we have that on film. And then there's another cave that has all kinds of things happening there as well. That we have ships. Peter Slattery with ECETI Australia, which you were looking at his site. There's a lot of information there, and he filmed a ship coming right out of the cave. And the GoPro people came up here, and I haven't been able to get that yet. And I need to get that from them. But they have they filmed a huge ship coming right out of the mountain.
Wow.
And I've been trying to get that footage. I don't know if I'm ever going to get it, but there's so many different things going on up there. There's in the front down there where the door opens up, the Yakima tribe up there, they call it the fairy lights. And they don't go there. They don't go up there. They stay away from that area. And I have had people go up there and camp out, and they came back and they weren't the same. I mean, they almost had nervous breakdowns. Because you got to be ready for these things.
Yeah.
But they couldn't even talk about it. They started to talk about it and they would just fall apart, and start crying and things like that. And so I mean, one day I'll get them to tell me the whole story. But I've been up there, and I tried to get them to open the door so I could go in, and they said no. And I said, why not? And they said, because you won't come back, And
and we need you over here.
They're probably right about that. But, I mean, there's so many things going on here. We have, half treetop level ships powering up massive ships, on the ECETI Stargate channel on YouTube. It's on there. And we have 5 or 6 ships in one frame, in triangles, and every ship you can think of is on there. And so if people want to see that, the evidence here is so overwhelming. We've had tens of thousands of people come up here, and we have triple PhD Boeing engineers and Lockheed Skunk Work engineers, and we have, Air Force base commanders and pilots and air traffic controllers all verifying that this is ongoing. But no matter what you do, no matter how much evidence you have, you still have the armchair investigators or, the people of ill intent trying to debunk, what's happening. But, they interviewed people from NASA. We've actually had NASA guys up here that admitted it's real, but they said, don't say I said that because I'll lose my job. But, you still have these other guys. We had this, we have James Taub with the OMSI Planetarium, and I can't remember this other guy's name with NASA, and the news always goes to them and says, well, what do you think? And they show them footage, and they show them footage of a ship landing on the mountain and morphing into 4, back to 3, into 4, as many as 4 objects, back to 1 again, and then taking off, and a jet chases it. And their thing was, they said it was a space station, and that we mistook it for the space station. And I'm going, space station isn't landing on Mount Adams, and it doesn't have the capability of morphing into 3 or 4 ships, So but that's the kind of things you have to deal with. And what's funny, the guy with the PhD, if he says something on there, the lamestream media automatically go to him. Oh, okay, well, we can dismiss that, rather than just look at the evidence right in front of their face.
Well, and so what are they afraid of if they do admit that this is going on? What's the consequence for them? Why is it a secret?
I mean, I think it's going to be hard for them to say, yeah, okay, these ships are real. They've been coming and going. We have no way of stopping them. We have no control of our airspace, and they're abducting people, and all those things. You'd have to admit that we've been covering this up for 60 years with deadly force, and what are they going to say? I mean, how are they going to admit to that? But the thing is, it doesn't matter, because disclosure is going to come from the skies, and there's nothing they can do about it, and it's not too far away. So it's it doesn't matter what I do or anybody else does, because it's going to happen anyway. And so, I always tell, they've tried to shut me up many times, but I just go, I'm little fish, the big fish are in the sky.
So who are the beings that live in the mountain?
There's like a galactic airport in the upper levels of the mountain. And then there are whole civilizations living in the mountain, and the Native Americans know all about them. It's all part of their history. But they're very advanced. They have phenomenal healing technology. They used to take their sick and they're wounded up there, and they would heal them overnight, and bring them back. But they had to close the door because they said that surface dwellers were becoming too aggressive, and their technology was getting too advanced, so they had to start shutting down, the doors or the contacts there. But I think that's going to happen. There's going to be a big reunification here pretty soon, and we just have to get rid of the people that are keeping humanity enslaved, through dependency and through consciousness and all the other nonsense that's going on.
Yeah. Okay. One more fun thing.
They're going to take themselves out, actually, because they're not going to be frequency specific to where the Earth's going. So
Well,
they have a
is
very
the
rude
Earth
awakening.
is the Earth actually splitting into two dimensions, the fifth and the third? You know, you hear talk of the fifth dimensional Earth or 5D Earth. Is that something that you're referring to when you say that they're going to take themselves out? Are we going to actually separate from that lower vibration?
Well, I think we need to go through the fourth to get to the fifth, and on the lower fourth dimensions where you have all the nonsense. You have the low-level ETs and kind of demonic and really people hanging out in the lower levels of the fourth, and that's being cleaned up. Yeah, and we'll probably move through that into the fifth. A lot of us will go right into the fifth. Some people will have more work to do, and they'll finish up, in the fourth dimension. And there's as many as 8 Earths going on right now. They're just a little bit out of phase from each other. And I'm not exactly sure on how the dynamics of that is going to happen when the shift happens, but I think that people that are frequency specific to the shift that raise their frequencies, the higher your frequencies, the higher up, the ladder you'll go. And you'll probably end up on the fifth dimensional Earth, or it might be a 4D Earth.
Yeah. You said something that probably made a few people stop, and that's there's 8 Earths going on at the same time. Here's what I got to say to the listeners. Follow James on YouTube. Follow him. Look him up on his website. I believe you guys have a new one that's ECETIEvents.com. Am I getting that one right?
Yeah,
I have it on here somewhere.
ECETIevents.com.
Okay, and so you guys will be able to look up James's workshop in October, and for some reason I wrote down October, but I didn't write down the dates. So would you mind sharing what dates of October is your workshop?
I don't have the card with me right now, but if you go to ECETIevents.com, or, it'll all be on there. All the upcoming events is on there. I keep thinking it might be the 20. I'm not sure when.
I'm gonna see if I can find it here for you before we close up the shop on this show, because I just think so many people could benefit from going to that. So let me see if I can find it.
Yeah, it's a life-changing experience. When people come, you're not the same, and you get highly educated on who's who in the multiverse, and actually how to deal with negative influences and raise your own frequencies, and all that's being taught. Yeah.
So it's called the Self-Mastery and Healing Negative Influences, and it's October 20th and through the 22nd, and that's going to be there at the ranch, correct?
Yeah, and should say ambassador training on there, but we'll see. I'm not sure what they put down on there.
I'm looking at an email. So, it probably does on the website, the ambassador training. Good. That way they know what to look for when they get over there and click on that. And we just got a couple of minutes left. Just got to say, James has Bigfoot at his ranch. So you guys, if you're into Bigfoot, just kidding. I'll have you talk about that just for like a minute here, and then we'll say our goodbyes. And but what a fun note to leave on is the Bigfoot, because what a beautiful and loving energy. At least that was my experience with it. So tell us a little bit about that.
There's a whole family that comes in here, but there's a younger one, kind of a juvenile. He's a lot more visible, and he likes to kind of do little pranks on people and show himself and things like that. And he actually did it with Clyde Lewis with Ground Zero Radio. He ran right up to him and skidded and stopped and smiled at him and took off running the other way and turned Clyde's world upside down. But, there's a lot of people this weekend. He paid a visit to, a few people this weekend, and you never know when he's going to pop up or show up, and they do phase in and out. They're not entirely physical a lot of times, so they can just, they'll be there 1 minute and just phase out and they're gone. But, we've never had any problem with them. They've always been very friendly, very benevolent, and extremely sensitive, beings, and they'll sense your energy. And, if you go up there with an attitude, you're never going to see them. But, they have an old saying, if you go out searching for Bigfoot, you'll never find it. But if Bigfoot wants to find you, it will. So
right.
So
well, and
so we have to.
True. I had a client that came here and I was doing a reading and I was like, what is this energy? And it was so brand new to me. I'd never sensed anything like that before. And the thing that came back to me was, you call us Bigfoot. And so that was right here in my office. And I was like, wow. And it was just so compassionate and loving. But you guys have actually got physical evidence of them being there, right? Like footprints, hair, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we have footprints and photographs of the footprints and multiple eyewitnesses. A lot of people have seen them. And actually Lorcan O'Toole, which was Peter O'Toole's son, was here, and he had, a face-to-face experience with Bigfoot as well, with another woman named Tiffany, and that's on our site. It should be up on our ECETI Stargate site.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't keep you any longer. As I told you before, I could probably keep you the whole night talking about different